Hello and welcome to Chit Chat with two T's. As usual, I am your host, counseling psychologist jvaldez, and with me today is somebody. Look how wide I'm smiling, guys. One of my favorites, Mr. Dayne-Marc Chin Slick. Crowd goes wild.
Allegedly one of the favorites.
Wow, we just fighting wild today. Okay. Hello, Dayne-Marc. Welcome to my show. It's a pleasure to have you, although now I'm questioning.
Thank you very much, JL, and it's a pleasure to be here after having been pressured for months, threatened and
Wow.
blackmailed, and I'm happy to be here.
That's not good words for you to be using in a mental health podcast, but no problem. We're happy to have you. And well, before we go into it, maybe because I know you've known you for too long. And I met Dayne-Marc when we were baby-faced and fresh and young and full of energy way back at UWI St. Augustine. Where, do you remember how we met?
I think so. Somebody was wearing a GYLC jersey. And we went, and from then on, the friendship blossomed.
Yeah, so Dayne-Marc and I both attended the Global Young Leaders Conference. And of course, they give you a little branded jersey. And he had his on, and I was like, you went to GYLC? Because I have a tendency to walk up to strangers and talk to them.
Like, who is this little person?
Yes, you can't really see it now, but Dayne-Marc is actually a giant. So it's not really that I'm very small. It's more like he's freakishly tall. And we've been friends ever since. And well, besides that, maybe Dayne-Marc, you could tell our viewers and listeners a little bit more about yourself.
Well, I work in the field of diplomacy. I have been working with NGOs since my teens, and I've been interested in government and politics for a long time. So it was a natural progression, some would say, into my career. And I am currently working in another place. Yeah, that's about it. I'm trying to bring a bit of Trinidad culture to wherever I am, and our wonderful nuance of thought to my space.
That, if that was a Miss Universe response, I would give you the title. You're just missing and, world peace. But that was really good. Yeah. So before we go into the actual program, I just have some rapid fire questions for you, and you're just going to answer it without taking too long to think. Okay? Generic, safe questions. All right? Okay. North or south?
South.
Great answer. You know what? I can stop right there. Football or cricket?
Jeez. Football.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Fatima, CIC or QRC?
Fatima.
Whatever. Trinidad or abroad? You're looking for your ring?
Trinidad. Always Trinidad.
Home is home. Brandy or beer?
Beer.
Rap or soca?
Both.
That's not an option, see?
That is my answer, ma'am.
The rudeness. Come on, you invite people to your show. You want them, you as a guest, and then they just do what they want. Okay. And bonus. Who's your favorite? Chantal, Nyla, or me?
Next.
I can't hear you. Hello?
What's that?
I can't hear you. Hello?
You all hold a piece of my heart as my good sisters. Two of those good sisters have given me godchildren. So where are you, jvaldez? Where are you?
So this is where we're at? Because I ain't give you a godchild. All right, you know what? This is not the
You
space
decide to ask the question. You understand the territory that you entered. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is what you could see. This is diplomacy at work. Anyways, so thank you. Thanks for that, Dayne-Marc. And so now we're going to go into our first segment, which we touched on in the questions, which is what's in your cup. So I'll tell you a little bit about what's in my cup. My cup is getting cool. It's very cute though. But today I have our featured product, which is Chawklit, right? This is very cute. This is what it looks like. If you can see it well. Maybe not because they like. Oh, there we go. Yes. Right. So this flavor that I have today is chocolate chai. Right. So it's actually hot chocolate on a spoon. It's very cute. Very cute. So you just mix it in some warm milk, and then you have your hot chocolate. So the spoon in my mug is actually from the packaging, and they have wonderful flavors. So we have mocha, and we have regular, which comes with these beautiful little marshmallows, which I think is amazing. And she also does, some really cute seasonal flavors, like around Christmas time. She has punch creme, and peppermint. So it's very nice. Unfortunately, because Dayne-Marc decided to be out of the country, he can't have his yet. But he has already threatened me that he wants it when he lands. So you will have yours. And some lucky viewers will also be able to get their hands on some. But it's very, very rich. I think the word that Ricardo came up with was indulgent, and I like that. It's very rich. It has a really nice balance of whatever the flavor is, along with the hot chocolate. It's local Trinitario cocoa that she uses. It's just, you want to have a little break and just relax, or you want to spoil yourself a little bit. Honestly, this hot chocolate on a spoon is really the vibe. So thanks very much to Chawklit, that's Chawklit, right, for our featured product today. So that's what's in my cup. And my cup, you can't see it because it's getting cold. It's one of those magic cups that go from black to having a picture on it. It's a very special mug given to me by a very special someone. So that's why I wanted to use it today. So Dayne-Marc, maybe you could tell us about what's in your cup and what is your cup, because I think I saw something very interesting written on your cup.
Well, what's in my cup, literally, right now is some herbal tea, because I've already had my coffee for the morning. But this is my favorite cup. It has a broken hand and a broken lip, but it says on one side, courage. And the inscription on the other side is, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. And I think the inscription says Mary Ann someone who said it. I can't read the cursive, that is it. Mary Ann someone. Yeah.
Noted.
So that's it.
That is beautiful. I like that. And I think that's perfect for you. I do consider you a courageous person, but I think knowing you through the years, I've been able to see you move from loud courage, the raw, to also just recognizing when sometimes the courage can be very quiet, both personally and professionally. So I'm glad to have been able to see that progression, but also to know that you give yourself a reminder all the time.
Yeah. It was gifted to me by my mother, I believe, and she said,
"Hi, Miss Rhonda Me,"
and she said, "It's the reminder that we need sometimes, not always the present thought." So this is my reminder.
Moms always know best, right?
Yes.
You paused it, but I'm not gonna let her know that you paused before you said it.
You and these questions. Yes?
Okay, so that's what's in your cup. Literally, what's in your cup figuratively? What's going on with you? What's happening right now?
So right now we are still in the pandemic, but we're on a bit of a slide upward, meaning we're able to get out a bit more, we're able to get a bit more done. We have to deal with some backlogs of things that could not be done during the time. And that's work-wise, personally, connecting with family, organizing to visit family because places are open a bit more, and spiritually continuing to one, grow, two, be happy where you are, and three, understanding the largeness that exists in the universe and how we fit into that. So that's what's in my cup,
That's a lot to
professionally,
be in your cup.
personally, and spiritually. Well, the cup big enough. It's a rather big cup. You can't really see, but
It
it's
is
a
a
rather
big cup.
Yes,
It is a big cup, but that's also, I just thought it looked big to me, but it would have been small too because you are a giant. So I thought
No,
that's
it's
why.
a large cup. It's a large
Okay. Well, that explains why there's so much going on. And I think we're all maybe dealing with those things. So I'm glad that you brought that up. How do you manage all of that with all the comfort of being at home in terms of in your home country?
It's about compartmentalizing at times. It's about understanding that you are in someone else's culture, and what you intend to translate may not be the message that is received or communicated. So it's always one, ensuring that you're able to get what you have to get done, while understanding that there may need to be a bit more effort, and sometimes that effort needs to be put up front or on the back end, and then you have to judge how you manage that, and that's how I manage what's in my cup, understanding that it's a cultural situation that is different, understanding that I may be misinterpreted or I may misinterpret, and allowing a margin for that and moving forward.
I think that is something actually, even if you're not in the country that of your origin, that we often have to do. But I guess because you're in a different country, you have to do it a little bit more. You always have to be a little bit more aware of how you communicate. Would you say so?
Yeah, it's active editing. It's how I see it.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think my producer's gonna like that too. Active editing, I like that. Yeah, because we it is something we really should be more aware of generally, right?
Yeah.
How are we trying to communicate our message? What is the message we're sending? Also having that awareness that the person receiving our message may not necessarily receive it as intended, no matter how clearly we try. But I think it's something that we kind of overlook, and we kind of just expect everybody, well, that's not what I meant. You're supposed to know that, but that's not how life goes. That's not how life goes.
And exactly, you're supposed to know that part of it.
Yeah.
Because of having to be very conscious of how things are communicated, I try not to say, oh, well, you're supposed to know that. So if I sense, even with my own family, with my own friends, someone may take pause, but they won't bring it up because it's you.
Right.
I don't go, something is wrong, but don't worry about it. I go, what's the issue? How can I clarify?
Let's talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. And the issue of maybe I said something in a tone that while I didn't mean it in a certain way, you know very well that I didn't mean it in a certain way. It may have been received in a different way simply because of how that person is either accustomed to it, or especially in terms of family and close friends, because they're accustomed to receiving my communication in a certain way. If something is slightly off, it may not have anything to do with them or may not be meant in a malicious way. It's sometimes taken like that. And I then say, hey, hold on. A couple seconds back, I realized a bit of a halt in how you address something because of what I said. And let me know if that is an issue, or if not, maybe somebody just ran across the road in front of you or something like that.
Right.
So we have that clarification and we move on. So having to actively edit in a situation that is outside my culture has actually helped me in dealing with family and friends, or in communicating with family and friends. So it's you learn from everything, more or less, kind of situation.
It's a growth area.
Yeah. That's why you're the professional.
Hello. Do you think that as a male, you have to pay more attention to how you communicate, especially in terms of things like your tone? Or do you think it doesn't matter?
It matters. It matters, especially in different cultures. In cultures that are more say patriarchal, your tone can't be too muted, because then that is viewed as something else, and your tone can't be too
loud,
too high or too loud, because that might be viewed as hysterical, and a man isn't supposed to be like that.
Wow.
In a society where you have a bit more, because I've come across it in varying interactions, in a society where you have more matriarchal or appearing egalitarian, you must always be measured and a bit more upbeat. So it as a man, especially as a black man, that's a whole different box we're dealing with.
Yes.
You have to manage, and you have to be situationally aware of where you are and who you're dealing with, and how things translate, both your body language and your tone. And we have to be we always have to be aware of that, especially as males. It's how we deal with things and how we let them out. Yeah.
That is so amazing, because when we do workshops on communication, the soft skills, or as I heard in a presentation recently, they're no longer soft skills, they're more power tools now. But
branded.
Hello, 2022. But in terms of communication, I can't remember the exact percentage now. I want to say it's 90%. But quite a large degree, the majority of our communication is nonverbal. You know, and that's not something that a lot of us really take into consideration, because we focus a lot on what is said, as opposed to how we said it, how loudly, how softly, what was the tone, were our arms folded when we said it, you know, were we sitting rigidly upright? A lot of these things play a role in terms of how people perceive us as open or as closed, and we're not even aware of it. You know, so especially in Trinidad earlier, when we were doing our checks, and you were like, you know, I'm a Trinity the bone, so I speak with my hands. You know, this is something that we do a lot, and I think for COVID, a lot of us missed being able to communicate the way to which we were accustomed, because we're very touchy-feely as a people. You know, we're very touchy-feely as a people. You know, slapping that one on the shoulder. You know, we're very open, and that was something that was kind of taken away from us because of COVID, and a lot of people had such a difficult time. So it's to the point now where, of course, some people, depending on the relationship, you might say, is it okay to hug you? Are you taking hugs? Because they missed that. And it's also very important for us, you know, for our parasympathetic nervous systems to feel that touch, that communication, what it does for us. As a man in another country, in another culture, is that received or interpreted in any different way in terms of your constant maybe hand gestures or anything like that?
Yes, but again, it depends on who you're talking to. But luckily, because this culture is touchy-feely, very touchy-feely. Sometimes I have to you know, like, hey,
like it's enough.
You take a step back. You try not to offend. Like for example, sometimes you may be wearing a lapel pin and it's slightly twisted, and somebody goes, and you have to be okay. I'm all right with that, because the acceptance of people or person, even a stranger, being in your personal space is a bit different from ours. And I had to learn that because it'll be like, hey, what you doing? You know, this way. So exactly. In terms of the male-female relationships, because you have that as well. So you have the male-friend relationships where very convivial, you know, taps on the shoulder, these sorts of things, a little side hug, almost like us. And then the male-female relationships as well. The hugs, the double kiss on the cheek, depending on the familiarity with the person. That, for the most part, initially was slowed down, was tempered a bit by most people. And then eventually you really saw the change. Like they were missing this is a part of the expression. How do I say this is my good friend if you're taking a beer and I don't give you a hug when you come in, or we laugh and I give you a hug when we laugh? that kind of thing. So you saw the longing that people had for the touch issue of interactions. There are parts of the culture as well that I was not aware of, but persons would explain some things to me, even if they say you're a bit cold. I cold.
I was going to say the same thing. A Trinidadian?
Exactly. You're behaving like those people from that other country or whatever.
Right.
What you mean? I think I'm being warm with you.
Yeah.
And be like, no, and even in the language as well, the familiarity of language. I remembered someone hearing me speak with a member of staff, and the person said to me, you should be more formal with them. I said, why? That person communicates at this level, and it's all right. I allow them to communicate with me at this level, and I will communicate with them at this level in their language. And that person was also a Trini,
right?
In living in this culture and having a business here, and they felt as if when they go to the office, this is how they communicate with people, and this is how they speak with people, and they don't shake hands. They come in and they wave their hand, and things happen. And there's a marked difference in how people feel to communicate with you in a supervisor subordinate role or a collegial role. When you adjust how you speak with them within their culture and how open you are. So there are some things that I still just won't do.
Right.
But the issue of saying, hey, you're being a bit cold, even though I give you a hug or a slap on the shoulder. You expect an embrace, and that is a big difference for us as Trinis. You get a little side hug, but the embrace is something different. So again, it's always being conscious, and it's just about allowing people to be comfortable. Not pushing yourself too far out of your own comfort zone, because that is draining as well.
Of course.
But also finding your happy middle and interfacing with people where they are and where they feel comfortable in their culture. So it's something that you have to think about, and it's something that you have to manage as well. And you also have to manage yourself.
Yourself.
Yes.
That is a big thing. Wherever you are, ladies and gentlemen, you have to manage yourself. I'm going to take that. I'm going to make a jersey that says manage yourself. And I'm glad that you actually said that, because that kind of leads into our next segment, which is what has boiled your water, right? What has been a pet peeve for you, or what is frustrating you at this time? Especially living in a different culture. We're in a pandemic. Well, all of that. All the things that you're also dealing with personally, managing your frustrations, that is a very integral part of your overall mental health and well-being. So what's boiling your water as of late?
Oh wow. My own people and other people.
Tell me more.
But what's boiling my water is the issue of expectation.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue of expectation, and where I expect things not necessarily to be a certain way, but to be executed in a certain manner. And at times, I find myself lowering the bar to say, okay, at least this has gotten done in this way, or at least this has occurred in this way. Just like we spoke earlier about how you have to leave the margin. But sometimes the margin gets too wide, and it's that is boiling my water. But how I deal with it is we have the conversation, we have the honest conversation, and I think more of that has to be done. So tomorrow I have some meetings to have, and it's simply about just closing the margin a bit. So that my kettle isn't whistling for an hour, but rather has the ability to cool down, so that we can move forward with a number of things. So what's boiling my water is how I manage expectations and the delivery of of the expected tasks,
Tell us.
things, or relationships.
Tell us some more about the expectation and why it boils your water. Because you went very, very well into the problem-solving aspect of it. But what about it is actually frustrating you? And is it your expectations or person's expectations of you?
No, my expectations.
Okay.
Well, maybe a better person's expectations of me. Because a task is set, and we understand that this is the threshold that needs to be met. Understanding the situation, sometimes persons, in my opinion, and then when I talk to them, I get the reality, which is sometimes in line with my opinion, that the requisite effort has not been applied to meet that threshold. And now we're going to have to fix something down the line.
Okay.
So we are now expending 2 sets of efforts. You understand? You see,
Correct.
2 sets of efforts.
Yeah, that's a lot of effort.
Yeah, where we could be. And this is also not just work-wise, but also in personal relationships as well.
I was going to ask you, is that happening in personal, in your personal life as
well? Where we expect some things, but we also don't see what's going on the back end with other people.
Yeah.
Where they may have to expend that effort that you want for this thing on something else. And by the time they get to you, they don't have it. They just don't have it. They're just not capable. So, and that's why I move so quickly to the problem solving aspect, because over the last couple of years, I've taken the view that you don't know what people are struggling with.
You don't know. And you don't know what you don't know.
And you don't know what you don't know. And that rang home to me when I had COVID. Because my recovery from COVID took so long, and the things that I didn't think of would be difficult for me became very difficult to do. And that was a process of recovery. So even that helped me say, okay, I don't know what's happening on the back end. So while I give the margin, I also have to ensure that I can manage the margin.
Manage yourself.
Because people also say, regardless of what's happening in your life, you have your deliverables.
Correct.
And I'm in a situation where we have I won't call it a pyramid, but I'd call it like a Lego set. Because if one piece is missing, the other pieces fall.
Okay.
Or the other pieces have to stretch more to lock into keeping the thing whole. And that's what boils my water. But the reason why now I move so quickly onto the solution or quickly onto problem solving is you don't know what's happening on the back end. If someone doesn't want to tell you, you can't make them tell you.
Yeah.
You can't put that support. And you also can't expend this much energy on this thing or this task or this relationship,
other things
depending on the importance that you place on it. And then we have to start ranking, and that's a whole other thing.
Prioritization.
Exactly. So so I hope that answers your question a bit.
Yes, it does. You know me, I'm a context person. I always want as much information as I could get, which is what helps me in terms of not knowing what's going on the back end, right? So I thought it was interesting because I think not just men, but I think men and women have a tendency to want to fix things, right? This is an issue. How do I fix it? So I'm not necessarily trying to figure out what exactly the issue might be, because that might actually inform how we try to fix it. Sometimes we may not even need to fix it if we're able to have a better understanding of what it is, but a lot of us jump over that and go straight into problem solving. So I'm glad that you actually of course, with your, whatever the issue is, personally or professionally, you would have a particular level of knowledge and understanding. So you kind of understand why you could skip certain parts or certain steps and go straight to problem solving in efforts to not doubly expend effort or energy. But sometimes in our haste to fix things, we don't try to pay attention to what's going on, which is why we make bad matters worse and frustrate ourselves and the other persons involved in the process. you know. So I think that was very important that you did raise that in terms of our expectations. And I've heard people say, no, I don't have expectations of people. You know, if you have no expectations, you're not going to be disappointed. But we all have expectations. Whether we are aware of it or not, we all have expectations of how we want things to go, how we want other people to treat us, what we think they would do from what they wouldn't do. We all have these expectations, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, of what people would and will not do. And so I think that's important to know, because sometimes you have to have that conversation with yourself. Okay, I'm upset about this, but why? What was my expectation of the person? Did I communicate that to the person? And sometimes a lot of our stress can kind of be reduced if we would just clearly communicate. But we don't like to do that, a lot of us.
Yes.
Yeah. we sometimes we really just don't want to do it. It's like, oh God, I don't want to. That will be having to talk about it and have a come to Jesus meeting, and I don't really want to do it. And that's how come sometimes we end up doing the double expenditure of effort. You know?
I also think that, as you said, the come to Jesus meeting, I think sometimes we think we need this big effort, this big thing to solve the problem. But you really don't need to come to Jesus for the meeting. You just have to go and listen to John by the river.
You better tell him about John. Yes.
And sometimes, and that's what I've come to realize, that it doesn't have to be this big bearing of the soul and the tears coming down. It simply has to be, okay, this is how it may be or how it should be, and you just listen.
Yeah.
And that's that silence. Sometimes the silence on your part.
Yeah.
Because it walks into the issue of calm. It walks into the issue of patience. And being gentle with yourself as opposed to being gentle with everybody.
Did you steal my lines about being gentle with yourself? What is happening? All right, go ahead.
You might be reading some of the same books about being gentle with yourself and not having to have this. I really have to talk to this person now, boy. He's an age. Is this going to be so much? But you could simply say, all right, let me hear what they have to say and not respond right away, digest it. And then at a later date, we can have a different type of meeting. And sometimes all a person wants is a hearing.
Sometimes people just want to be listened to. I think it's an innate human need. We want to be heard. And sometimes, depending on the situation, we are in such a rush to defend ourselves that we don't leave any room to hear what the other person is saying or what their point of view might be. You know, it's just, well, the guard is already up.
Yeah.
You know, so whatever you're going to say, I'm just here to defend myself. So it really doesn't matter. We're not really going to try to fix anything. I don't really want to hear what you're saying. I'm just trying to get my point across and show you how you are wrong.
Yeah, one of the most difficult things, like you said, the defense, the ego issue of it, has been for me the ego death and how to manage that.
Yeah,
and that has been a struggle.
Yeah,
especially in this context. So that is something that I continue to work on and work with, but it's not just the death of the ego. It's the growth that comes from that, or the resurrection, as you're on Easter Sunday.
You better preach. Yes.
Of yourself.
Hallelujah.
So it's it's also on the other side of it, how we deal with it. So you don't allow yourself to be run over. But you also say, this may not have anything to do with me. But that is something, especially in our culture, because we have this ideology of sometimes the loudest talker is listened to, regardless of what they say.
But is it the squeakiest wheel gets the most oil?
Yeah, exactly. And the idea that sometimes we have to die to ourselves first before we're able to accept anybody else is something that I've been working on. And I think that is going to be a work in progress for years to come. Because
it's a lifetime process. Sorry to break it to you.
No, God.
It's a forever situation. But yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm glad that you said that again, because again, I've shared with people the human experience is a common one. There's nothing new under the sun in my mind. It's just for every individual, it's going to be a unique representation of that particular experience. And so this actually has come up a couple of times in some of the episodes that we've had, most recently with Jolene Romaine, in terms of recognizing that, what somebody else is saying or doing, or how they're reacting to you, might have very little or nothing to do with you.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that is actually what has me dealing with situations better. When I'm like, I definitely don't know, this is not a me situation. This is a you thing. So I'm just gonna, right? But sometimes it's hard when you have to recognize, oh, this is might actually have something to do with me. And how do you treat with that?
I hope you're not saying to people, this is not a me situation.
There's usually an internal monologue.
Okay.
It's usually,
all right.
usually something internal, but that is what helps me. It might, but that's also what helps me. Situation. It would become a me situation. And that's what helps me remain calm on the surface, right? When I'm like, you speaking to me this way, because, one half of me would be like, all right, let's go 0 to 100 real quick. You start it, I'm gonna finish it. But then the other part of me is like, do we really want to do this right now? Yeah. What are the pros and cons? And you figure out the ways to do that very quickly. You begin to process that very quickly if you think on it enough. So everyone knows I hate math. Everybody knows jail is not a numbers girl. But when I wake up in the morning and I need to figure out, okay, if I sleep for 50 more minutes or 20 more minutes, well, how much more time does that give me? My brain works very quickly. The math comes very easily. So I think it just, when you are in a situation where you know what you would like and you are accustomed trying to kind of like figure that out, you're able to move the pieces around very quickly to make a decision as to, do I go 0 to 100 on this, or do I just kind of step back on it? So it comes with, as you said, dying to yourself and learning about yourself, which isn't always easy, because sometimes the ego is very strong and you want to defend yourself, but sometimes the true growth comes from being able to step back, or as your cup said, what was it, the quiet whisper? The
quiet voice at the end of the day.
Or in the middle.
Saying I will try again tomorrow.
Yep. And that tomorrow doesn't have to be literally. It could just be, tomorrow means not today, Sita. It could be that.
Yeah. And what I found very helpful to me is allowing myself to feel the feelings.
You have to feel the feelings.
Yeah, give yourself a half hour.
Yeah, you have to feel the feelings. Sit with it, acknowledge it. Don't try to push it down, because then it comes back at very inopportune times, mind you, to rear its head. So sometimes you have to feel the feelings.
And that's why for the other person, it's not a you thing, it's a me thing at this point.
Exactly. So, I'm so happy that we're talking about this, because all of these things, again, are really woven into mental health and your overall well-being. So let's talk a little bit more about that. How do you manage your own mental health?
Well, there are a number of things. And it depends on what the situation is. Sometimes
are you going to tell the people that you read papers and sip scotch like an old man on Sundays, and that helps?
Well, since you're letting out secrets, yes, this is true. Or now, good rum as opposed to scotch, because we are Caribbean people.
Hello.
And we must be able to sell our products.
That's right.
Able to know our products.
Good rum. Mm-hmm.
And so, well, that's one of the ways. Quiet. Mm-hmm. That's it. Just quiet sometimes. Yeah. That's necessary. Or sometimes you just want to go out with friends and talk to other people, not about anything that you're doing, not about anything that's related to the day. You just sit, you have a chat, you go on a hike with a group, and you're in your head for that time, and you're sweating. What I do now that really helps me is I besides the exercise, I've gotten into fighting, a bit more, some Muay Thai and some
Please,
MMA.
I was going to say, please clarify for people what fights are these before they come away from here thinking jail is an advocate for physical violence.
Of physical violence. You on Will Smith's side. All right.
Shots fired.
Fight it. Right. So now that is something I think I get to see the progress. I get to set goals. I get to meet those goals. And sometimes I just get to tune out and just go, because at some point in practice, your mind is just, your body is just operating at whatever is instinct.
Yeah.
And I remembered one day I went to training. And I try to manage my strength with my trainer, because he's smaller than I am.
Okay.
Mind you, he could flip me and throw me down.
I'm pretty sure. Tiny
totally destroy me. Yes, one of your people.
Fighting wild today, boy. This Resurrection Monday. Wow.
And one day, he says, but I didn't have to tell you once to raise your power level. He said, this is good. You had a good lunch, your energy level is high. And I said, no, something in the office. And I was able to release the stress that came from that. Simply by shutting off and just going into this exercise that is totally physical at that point. Yeah. And even I put my headphones on, so I was listening to music, not even listening to the trainer, because I know the moves and its signals and what is requested at the time. And so there is that helps now, the physical activity of it, the meditative part of it, because when I say combat sports, how that could be meditative, you fight. No,
I was gonna be like, what?
Deeply meditative. Yeah, there's a deeply meditative part of it as well. Even in the midst of it, you have that inner monologue, assessing what you're doing or talking to yourself, or sometimes your mind just says, let me take a step back. Yeah. Something coming towards my head to hit me. I have no time to think about doing anything. Let me just follow what the body says. And that has been helping me a lot. So there's the quiet, even in the movement. Yeah. And that is really helping me deal with things. And of course, you have the endorphins from exercise.
Right. So you actually physiologically feel better.
Yeah. And that has been helping me move forward with dealing with stress and with managing stress and with just letting something out. The energy, because there's this energy that builds up in you during the day that you become tight, you become closed off at times.
Yes, tightly wound,
because of the stress. And that I'm going to the beach. And that's it for me. Because me and the sea, we have our thing.
You all have a beautiful relationship. Yes, you don't get in between. But yes, and those are beautiful ways. I'm glad that you're able to talk about the physicality and how that helps you to de-stress, the hiking, the fighting, all of those things. So that's more of a physical, emotional connection. In terms of your mind, because of course your work requires you to think quite a lot. I don't even know how you shut it off. But having to be a literal representative of our culture and our people, does that add to your stress and negatively or positively impacting your mental health?
Well, in terms of, I'll just say we are all representatives of who we are. Right. We're all representatives of our culture. Because it is our nature. It is not, we're not a malicious, we might be moving along, but we're not a malicious people. So that in itself doesn't present me with too much stress. You have the moments when you really just want to say something.
Yes.
And you go, you know what, this will not look good.
Well, not all the well.
And I don't want them to think that we all like this. You have those moments.
Right.
But generally, no, because I am more or less at peace with who I am.
That's
and
so
I'm not going to
beautiful.
do anything that is out of character for me.
Mm-hmm.
And most things that would be out of character may be negative in any case.
Yeah.
So that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't bring me, as I get older, it doesn't bring me too much stress because of understanding who I am. What does bring mental concern, like you said, is the switching off of it. And I remember in the years, even now from time to time, there's issue of sleep because I would not sleep until I was in Trinidad. Meaning, yes, I would go to bed, yes, I'd close my eyes, but the restfulness that would come from sleep would not happen unless I was in Trinidad. And I remember one time almost waking up the house because of how I woke up cold sweating.
Wow.
Because of what was happening where I was prior to going home that time. Mm-hmm. And then I had to say, well, wait a minute, there's a little bit of, well, let's not call it PTSD, but there's a little bit of something that's happening where
there's some trauma there.
Mm-hmm. Because of the gunfire that you're hearing or because of what's happening around you, and because you have to keep your mind occupied with the safety of all these other people.
Right.
Because that's part of a responsibility that I hold. Mm-hmm. The issue of sleeping. So I'd sleep very light. Yeah, because if the phone goes off, if the security phone calls, if something happens that needs an urgent response or action. So for the first couple of years of being in places, sleep was a real issue until I was home. And then that year, I think that was 2019. Yeah. That was you have a point, a marker.
Yeah.
That was a marker for me in terms of, hey, you have to manage this better.
Wow.
You have to deal with this better. And I joke to people. I could tell the difference of where tear gas is from by the taste, because
what is happening?
There was years.
Yeah.
There were some things that caused those things like that to happen, and one day we full gust of it, and my two thoughts were, make sure this person is safe, make sure that person is safe, and then this tastes really good. A little pepper.
What?
No, initially it was a bit more spicy than the one, because the other one was bitter. It was bitter. Your eyes would water, you would choke.
Yes.
This one, your eyes would water and you would choke. But when it got into you, I went,
oh, this is nice.
This would make a good sauce for chicken, boy. Oh God. And so
such a Trinidadian.
Yeah. So I mean, it's those things were happening.
Yeah.
And when I got home, the issue of a noise or being stressed for my family at home in Trinidad was because of the hyper-vigilance that was necessary.
For survival.
Yeah. And not for me, but for
those in your charge.
People around me, exactly. And their
How long
families.
have you been abroad now?
As of March 31st this year, 6 years, 3 weeks.
That is insane.
4 hours.
I feel like you just left. I am going to write a strongly worded letter.
You feel so. I feel like I left eons ago. You feel like
I'm going to write a strongly worded letter to the powers that be. I keep telling you this and you're like, no, don't do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it this year.
Yeah.
To have you back home.
So that has been the stress. And even now, how I mitigate that is by having, even if it's not provided, I get it for myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
having contact, having sat phone, having backup data things, having first aid kit in my car, these sort of things.
You've adapted.
Not necessarily worrying about if I would need a bulletproof vest where I'm going to.
Yeah.
Those sort of things, because it's things have adjusted in some ways.
Yeah.
And I have not allowed the idea of the expectation.
There you go.
To lead me into, well, this is supposed to be done, but it's not done.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be done. I do it in a way that I can manage it. So that in dealing with those things, the stress that is created from the constant thinking, because the mind doesn't switch off, right?
Nope.
From the constant thinking is managed by how I, the tools that I equip myself with to deal with situations, ensuring that everyone knows what do we do when X happens.
Yeah.
What do we do when Y happens?
Right.
And
structures
what do we do,
and processes.
and what do we do when neither X or Y happens?
Yeah.
And the fact that we're able to say, okay, we have these things in place generally, so we can work within these bounds and find our way to a better situation. And that is what has worked for me in the last couple of years. And then COVID was a real come to Jesus moment.
Hello.
For me dealing with it.
Yeah.
For the issue of the pandemic, not being able to travel and all of these things. And it puts things in perspective. It
should. If it hasn't for most people by now, I'm very concerned. But just kind of circling back a little bit as we, prepare to close up with what you said earlier. You said, compartmentalizing is something you recognize that you do. That can assist, right? But have you experienced times when compartmentalizing would not have been beneficial to your mental health? Yes,
because it like we said, it boils, the water boils.
Right.
And the pressure builds, and if the kettle doesn't have that space to whistle,
pressure
it goes somewhere else. And I have seen that in times with dealing with people professionally. Sometimes with family, someone will say, "Hey, take a breath, step back," and you have to trust those people because they know you for the most part. And speaking with good friends like yourself helps, but there are times when I have seen that compartmentalizing has not helped. Segmenting, let's play the semantics of it. Segmenting, maybe they say, but there's a connection. But the compartmentalizing of things, not very often in my case because of how I have to do what I have to do. But at times, less than more, there have been instances where, okay, maybe I should not have put this into this closed box to deal with later. Or maybe I should have just let that box open into the general thing and deal with it as it comes. So yes, there have been those moments.
Well, one thing I will say that I have learned, a lot of people may not be aware, but I would have also done a minor in international relations. So Dayne-Marc and I had some classes together in UWI. And what this conversation has really taught me is that really would not have been the field for me, because you spoke about not being able to sleep. And pardon, that's not a place I'd like to be. That's not the neighborhood for me. Not being able to sleep. That's not, no. So I want to thank you for bringing clarity to me about if I had any questions about my career choices. So thank you. But what would you, again, I want to say thank you to you for coming and sharing with us your experience. It has really been eye-opening, even for me, who has a deeper awareness of some of the things you are managing. But is there anything that you'd like to share in closing with our viewers and listeners?
be gentle with yourself.
Hello.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Sometimes
Mic
we
drop.
take on too much. We take on too much. We take on too much.
Yeah.
We assume that we can do everything. We assume that we can save everybody.
Yeah.
We assume that we can't trust other people to get what they have to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Be gentle with yourself, and the rest flows through it.
Look at you learning. Look at you. So proud of you.
So I will charge you for the next session.
Okay. Let's see how that goes. Again, special thanks to our guest, Dayne-Marc Chin Slick, all the way from international waters. Thank you for being with us here today. And again, special thanks to Chawklit, right? Our featured product for today. Viewers and listeners, make sure and pay attention, right? Because in time to come in the near future after this airs, you will be able to get your hands on some Chawklit products yourself, right? Again, thank you. I don't know, I'm gonna have to adjust my jersey. Thank you to Kingdom Concepts for my amazing jersey. Oh, the pleasure of being dark and lovely. Body positivity, melanin positivity, all that jazz. And again, thank you for being with us, viewers and listeners, as we discuss the mental health actual factuals here on Chit Chat with 2 T's. And we can't wait to see you again next time. Take care and see.